How's it going, guys? Big news today. Very important news. You've probably heard me talk about this a few times, but I can't emphasize enough just how important it is that NASCAR is able to control their assets, basically. And news today that the proposed deal between ISC and NASCAR seems to be going through. It's in the final stages, apparently, in negotiations. And it's going to be about a $2 billion deal. There's a lot of reasons as to why this is really important. I'm not going to go into the financial side too much of like business, basically. I'm going to quickly touch on it. Basically, if NASCAR ever wanted to sell, if the France family ever wanted to sell, you want to build up your assets, you want to own the racetracks that your series runs on. So that's a big part of this. NASCAR's value just went up $2 billion just by buying ISC. If you don't know what ISC is, it is International Speedway Corporation. They host a lot of the most popular tracks on the circuit, on the NASCAR circuit. Here's a picture of just some of them. You could see there are big names here: Talladega, Daytona, Homestead, Auto Club, ISC, or not ISC, ISM Raceway, Kansas, Chicagoland, Michigan, Watkins Glen, Richmond, Martinsville. All these places, very important. Darlington as well. A lot of good racetracks on here too. Now, if you're wondering why the schedule doesn't change, I think a lot of you already know this, but the schedule does not change that much right now because NASCAR, ISC, and SMI struck a deal a few years ago. They're in a locked contract. Certain tracks have to get certain races. You can't really move around too much. But in 2021, which we keep saying in the community here that it's the year. That's the big year that it's gonna be the big movement year for NASCAR. Whether that be with the car, the tracks, playoff formats, all that. That's going to be the year. It was really big and important for NASCAR to somehow be able to control the tracks they go to. This gives them 13 tracks at their disposal. This gives them full access of where they want to go with Daytona, Homestead, Talladega, where the race dates are, how many races to give to each racetrack. They control everything now. They're able to control where they want to race and what kind of schedule they want to have. Night races, day races, when they want to put it around, they can control that. It doesn't have to go through a lot of negotiations, a lot of meetings between multiple different companies that have all different ideas or different motivations for what they're doing. Basically, you're cutting a lot of people out of the table and making it smaller, and NASCAR is able to control more. Now, I do criticize NASCAR a good amount, but in the end, I want NASCAR to control what NASCAR does. I don't want NASCAR to be controlled by SMI and ISC, which has kind of been the way for the last a good amount. But if NASCAR can own ISC and maybe somehow get SMI, which I don't think is going to happen. I think SMI, which is, you guys know, Bruton Smith, he is the owner of Bristol, destroyed that racetrack. The owner of Texas, absolutely destroyed that racetrack. As you can tell, I'm not a fan of SMI. I'm not a fan of Bruton Smith at all. I don't know what they're doing with their racetracks. They're just straight garbage to what they've done to them, especially Bristol and Texas. Bristol is just a joke now. We all miss old Bristol. And Texas is, I can't even explain how bad Texas is. It's just really, it just saddens me. That's really all. But they'll still have a lot of say over the schedule. But if NASCAR basically gets ISC, they control a lot. Here's the statement from NASCAR themselves. While important regulatory and shareholder approval processes remain, we look forward to the successful final resolution of this matter and continuing our work to grow this sport and deliver great racing experiences for our fans everywhere. With a strong vision for the future, the Francis family's commitment to NASCAR and the larger motorsports industry has never been greater. And you might be wondering, France family, does that include Brian France? Brian France is, from what we've seen, he's not even at the table anymore. I don't know where he is. He's not really making any decisions at all. If you're worried about Brian France taking over control of a lot of the racetracks and messing it up somehow, I wouldn't be too worried about it. I don't think Brian France is probably ever coming back to NASCAR after what happened. Literally, the drivers don't want him, the fans don't want him, nobody wants him. So I don't think he'll be welcome back. But as long as the family owns it, and hopefully Ben Kennedy is groomed as the years go by, then we can be in good shape. So again, the biggest thing that this means is just basically owning ISC is you get to control your own schedule. Just think about owning a company, right? Think about owning whatever you want to own. You created something in school. I don't know. Just think about it. But you had these two other companies have a large influence on what you're able to do, where you're able to go. Really, they control a lot, basically. Remove that from the table and you get all that power. There's a good old saying that there's a vacuum of power in a lot of these big corporations or big entities. And NASCAR is basically assuming that vacuum of power. And usually it's not good for one person to assume all that power, but in the case of, let's say, Disney or Apple or something like that, or Google, sometimes it's not that bad. And so for NASCAR, again, I really would like to see them assume that vacuum of power and be able to do what they want. This opens up a lot of different scenarios from, yes, moving the Daytona 500 to not be the first race. I would not agree with that, but it's possible now because NASCAR would own Daytona. Because NASCAR owns Daytona, that means anyone that wants to come to Daytona goes through NASCAR as well. So just think about all the other series that goes on at Daytona. Daytona is the world center of racing. So There's a lot of things that go on there. Rotating championship finales, you could do that with NASCAR. There could be a deal between SMI and NASCAR where 1 year it's at an SMI track and 1 year it's at a NASCAR-owned track. Again, SMI only owns 8 tracks. NASCAR has the majority here. You can completely shift race dates everywhere. You can take tracks off and put other tracks on. There's a lot of different things that NASCAR can do now. Tracks like Nashville or those other tracks, Rockingham, those other tracks that are not on the schedule now, that maybe used to be on the schedule, you can bring those back because you're no longer locked with ISC. On the flip side, NASCAR probably wouldn't want one of their own tracks not being on the schedule. So you could see there's a lot of maneuvering that has to go on, but at least they have say. You can comment down below what you guys think about everything. What do you think about NASCAR owning ISC? Do you like it? Do you not? I definitely like it. I think it's been a really big talking point. I think it needed to happen. It's been going under the radar for the last few months, but when I did talk about this way months ago when the initial rumors were coming up, like I said, I cannot stress how important this was for it to get done. It had to get done. That way NASCAR can control more of their destiny, and now they can. I'm really excited to see what they do with it. Steve Phelps and everyone at NASCAR, they seem to know what the fans want when it comes to short tracks, when it comes to just changing up the flow of things, refreshing things. They don't seem to know that a shootout Final Four in the championship race is absolutely idiotic in every sense of the word. But I can't change their mind on that. They're kind of hell-bent to stick to it. But again, that's idiotic. But other than that, just changing races and all that stuff, changing where races are, finales, all this stuff, that maybe moving the all-star race around, that would be nice. They have to talk with SMI about that one, though, because they own Charlotte, so we'll have to talk a little bit with them. But this does open up the playing field. So I think that's all I'm going to say for now. Comment down below what you guys think. If you liked the video, make sure to hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram if you're not already. It is at RealRadman. And we'll see the Coca-Cola 600 this weekend. That should be fun. That's going to be a long, long race. That's also something I want. I'm probably going to make a separate video on that. Do we need that longer race anymore? Tradition versus literally sitting there for 5 hours with a car that goes full throttle pretty much. Man, that's terrifying. But that's for another day. I'll see you guys later. Peace out.
I can't change. Even if I tried, even if I wanted to, and I can't change. Even if I try, my love, she keeps me warm.